Salam and peace. You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, on Amazon Fire TV, on Apple TV, Roku, whole lot of social media, and definitely on our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. We're always there on 24/7 on all these mediums. And it's a unique voice. This is the first American Muslim television on waves. There are about 6 million Muslims, 3,000 mosques in America. Half of the Muslim are born and raised here. Some of us were brought here, our forefathers, 3, 4 centuries ago. Some came willing about 500 years ago. So there is a whole lot of history and unique conversation which you can find. So recently, someone played something and asked Vice President Biden his comment. And his answer was, "What country are we living in?" Something like that, he says. And the response was quoting the president, our president, President Trump, just a few days ago, who was asked a question, "Will you accept the results of election?" He said, "Well, we are going to have to see what happens. You know that I have been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster." We're quoting, remember, ballots are a disaster. And he added, "Get rid of ballots, you will have a very transfer, you will have a very peaceful, there won't be a transfer, frankly, there will be continuation," unquote. This is the way our president responded. Does it increase confidence in our electoral process? Are we going to be a model democracy for the rest of the world, where sometimes there are elections, other time there is a there is a dictatorship or military takeover, or our country gonna have pretty soon in which a big leader is always elected with the 99% of the vote? What country are we in? 50% Republicans and independents who lean Republican, they believe that traditional American way of life is disappearing so fast that we may have to use force to save it. What country are we living in? Well, America, right? This is the country when people use guns to save America according to their vision. Right, this was that country. This was a country which native people were outgunned. So history is there, and what is happening around the world is in front of us, and people are purchasing guns. Where are we heading? What country are we in? Question is very legitimate for a person like me who read constitutions of the world. He had better house, better car, all the loved ones and parents, all the siblings in Pakistan. He chose American Constitution. Not the one before amendments, but the one with amendments, and loved it. What country are we in? Is it going to be Hong Kong? Is it going to be Cairo or Belarus? What country is it going to be? To discuss all of this with us is a person who writes often, Bob Kohler. Welcome to Muslim Network TV, Bob Kohler.
Hi, good morning. Good to be here.
Good morning. Bob Kohler used to work for Chicago Tribune, and now he's a freelance reporter and an editor, 40 years in journalism, native of Michigan, who moved to Chicago. Well, welcome to Chicago, because I never told you that 30 years ago, did I?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I have been in Chicago longer than you, so that's
Okay.
where it was. I should have welcomed you.
Well, maybe you did, and we've forgotten it. It's been a long time.
Well, tell us, what are the future scenarios? What to expect if Trump wins, and what to expect when Biden wins?
Oh my gosh. The those those are somewhat complicated questions. And basically I'll start out by saying I have no idea. I don't know. Um, I I mean, if Trump wins, one, what does that even mean for Trump to win? Does it does it mean he wins because they don't count the ballots? I mean, so so you know, does it mean he wins because they have already packed the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules whatever suits the are settled before it in his favor? Um, you know, if Trump wins, is that really the same thing as saying that Biden wins, but Trump refuses to leave office? You know, there's a lot of there is more uncertainty than I have ever seen in an election in my lifetime. Um, in the column that I just wrote last week, I said maybe we're back in 1860. I mean, that was a somewhat complicated time, and when Abraham Lincoln won the election, uh, some states started seceding from the Union, and we had a civil war. And I don't know what's going to happen this time, but I do believe that we're at a chaos. We're at the level where chaos and uncertainty could erupt, and no one will know what to expect. That's how it seems to me here at this month and a half before the election, and maybe things will get clearer as we get closer to the election. Maybe they will become even more uncertain as the time moves forward.
So, is it possible that in the evening of elections, before all the remote ballots, absentee ballots are counted, somebody will declare victory?
Yes, it is certainly possible that, and the somebody who declares victory is probably going to be Donald Trump. I mean, yes, it is certainly possible, and because he's already set the stage, for the dismissal of the mail-in ballots, and
What about if Biden also declares a victory?
well, that's an interesting possibility, and I presume if Biden declares a victory, it will be because there has been a very clear, landslide of support for Biden. And then if that happens, I mean, from what I've been from what it seems like to me at this point, the best possibility would be a landslide for Biden, so that his victory could not easily and simply be challenged, by the sitting president. If it's close, it'll very certainly be challenged one way or the other. Maybe it's possible for the victory to be such a landslide that Trump is unable to challenge it. I don't know, but maybe that seems like the best scenario is that. And then
So how long do you think? I mean, considering that some states don't count ballots on the same day,
yeah,
have come in mail. What do you think is the a realistic scenario when election will be declared who won. I mean, definitely not that night, although some people may claim victory.
Yes.
But do you think it will take 7 days, 10 days, 2 weeks? I mean, without a
Well,
fight. I mean,
yeah,
when
I mean,
will
I've
we be
heard,
able to count all ballots?
yeah, I've heard it that it could go as long as 2 weeks, which leaves it wide open to possible chaos and disruption of the process, by the sitting president. Um, I don't know if it'll be if it would take 2 weeks, but I've heard that is one possible scenario, as long as 2 weeks to count it. Maybe more like 1 week is more likely, but I don't know that for sure by any means.
So the so post office has problems. Its mass
Yes.
processing machines are not there, so they may take longer time to deliver the ballot after the election, and then people may take time to count the ballots, and then as president want many people to watch, it seems then Democrats will be watching too. So there will be too many watchers from both sides, and everybody will be fighting on each vote. So that will delay counting of the ballot and certification of the results. So getting to 2 weeks seems to be a very viable scenario to me.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. Yes, if there's a fight over virtually every ballot, yes. So that, I mean, the pending chaos is beyond the imagination at this point. The possible chaos about how this could all come out, including trying to wreck the post office itself. I mean, the Trump people have been working hard at that for the last couple of months and or longer.
Well, post office had been target for several years since COVID
Yes, yes,
started, wanted
absolutely.
to privatize, and then this guy is appointed by President Trump, whose mission seems to be dismantle everything which is out there.
Right.
And
Yes.
although
Yes.
some courts have said that reinstate machine, but I don't know if they have spent $500 million dismantling the machine. Now they will say we don't have $500 million to reinstall. Dismantling is
Yeah.
always a easier job destruction than construction.
Yeah. It's
So what about if one or the two, both sides declare victory? Do you think protest will be out there and some protesters will have also guns with them?
I fear, yes, what you're talking about here is the scenario of a modern day civil war. That I mean, I believe Trump is rousing his supporters in the at the level of creating a total us versus them scenario, and the Trump base is all the Second Amendment crowd. So yeah, so there's a huge chance that a lot of Trump supporters will be armed, which then creates another very, very large question of how do you then what how do you deal with how do you deal with that with armed people on one side? Is there a way to still remain unarmed and nonviolent? And I believe there is. I know that there is. And once again, the best scenario is if the support for Biden or for anybody but Trump is so large, it is overwhelmingly large.
So,
that's the best scenario.
so if the Second Amendment people on the Trump side bring the guns, recent reports have suggested some of the cops have been shot also. So it seems that protester, if violence begins, those people who believe in the Constitution but don't necessarily own guns may have a run on the guns also.
Well, that is true, and it's very frustrating and frightening to see it turn into an armed conflict from both directions. I think even if that's the case, there has to be a prevailing nonviolent reaction that stands against violence from either side. Violence from the left is still violence and is still something that will damage, the cause that it's purporting to support. There has to be a nonviolent movement that transcends, the us versus them, the Civil War scenario, of Trump supporters versus Biden supporters, or whatever you want to call it.
This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and you're watching Muslim Network TV, and we're talking with a reporter who has worked for 30 years, Bob Kohler, and we'll be right back after these messages.
My wife, she's a professor at the University of Cincinnati, who's Catholic, and by her watching and listening to our 3-year-old son watch Adam's World, she ended up taking Kalima Shahada. She embraced Islam because she learned so much about Islam and the other prophets. It really affected our life in a great way, and because of Sound Vision and Adam's World, we're Muslims.
I took my Shahada 15 years ago, and I actually am from a rural part of Ohio. And so I found the catalog for Sound Vision, and I ordered the tapes and the CDs and the books, and I used those, and especially for my little daughter, that's how we basically learned our Islam, and Islam entered our hearts through the wonderful works of Sound Vision.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brother. I just want you to know that I love the Sound Vision website, that a lot of times when I'm looking for information, especially as it relates to homelessness, domestic violence, and women issues, I go to that website, and then I see what you've written, and then I copy and paste it, and spread the word, because the wisdom is there, so I can't do any better than what Sound Vision has already done.
Sound Vision is our survival guide. It is the organization that provides skills for Muslims how to survive and thrive in this community here in the U.S.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Anam, I'm in 11th grade, and I grew up with Adam's World, and what it taught me was unity, respect, and love for the Muslim Ummah.
Adam's World is the greatest show ever made. Take me to the Kaaba, man. I love that puppet.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Bob Kohler, who has been a reporter for most of his life about elections, prospects, what might happen, what might not. So, leaving the possible chaos of the election, I have a question about which has been brought on my social media multiple times. Although President Trump has a Muslim ban and he's not kind to immigrants and a whole lot of people like that, but some Muslims argue, and I'm posing this question to you, you being a peace activist who teaches peace at the DePaul University. People say that Trump has lesser number of drone attacks around the world than President Obama did. And unlike Bush and Obama, he has not started any wars, although he has been continued to support in different areas. He's trying to achieve peace in the longest war which America ever had. That's the Afghanistan war, sitting down with Taliban and talking with them. So if Trump wins, they believe it means less war, less killing around the world. And they're willing to forego his racist, anti-Muslim talk, legislation, and all of the above. And the same people also sometimes are appreciative of him taking a stand against China, which is a communist totalitarian regime, which has just adopted market economy to get rich. So as a person who teaches peace, don't you think a Biden who is a centrist, and I mean, this is not my opinion, but this is being discussed, so I'm presenting it to you. So I hope you will not take it personal, this particular scenario. And him being a centrist, he's already talking about regime change around the world, and he wants to restore the type of America which wanted to be policemen around the world. So as a person who teaches peace, what do you think?
Okay. Well, you are absolutely right when you talk about, Bush and Obama and all of Donald Trump is a symptom. He is not the problem or the disease. He is just one more symptom of a very problematic situation in this country, which is its unaddressed marriage to militarism and war. And this has to stop. And you're right. Trump has not done, he has not done what George W. Bush did, which was, really launched the endless wars that are now going on, in the Middle East. And Obama, who campaigned on, this campaign of hope and promise and all that, was an enormous disappointment in terms of his failure to address and then, end the wars that were going on. So Trump, I have no belief that Trump has an interest in ending wars per se. He is doing whatever he's doing for, his own interest. And I'm sure he is as tied to the military industrial complex as any of the other presidents. Now you bring up Biden as a centrist who will absolutely continue the wars. Absolutely. I do not like Biden at all. Biden, once again, is the Democrats' lesser evil choice, just as Hillary Clinton was the lesser evil choice against Trump in 2016. And, we saw the way Bernie Sanders, and even Bernie has only minimally addressed war in the military-industrial complex, but at least he is, somebody who is in that area, and I believe he would address it. But Bernie was utterly marginalized and dismissed by the Democrats, the Democratic National Committee, by the main, and so, and then, and we're given Biden, the status quo candidate. And Biden, as, because, I belong to the contingent that believes we got to get rid of Trump, I do support Biden as the lesser evil and will vote for Biden in this election. But that is hardly, the answer. That, the answer then is to continue. If Biden actually wins, and we're not left with the chaos of a sitting president losing but refusing to leave office, but if Biden actually wins, the movement to end our endless wars, demilitarize, denuclearize, all of this stuff must absolutely continue. And the irony is that Donald Trump, by being this, divisive force, a non-centrist, marginal, a force from the margins, from the right-wing margins, and a supporter of, white supremacy and white nationalism, is actually putting the spotlight on all the problems of the status quo that somebody like Biden represents.
So you consider Trump is as much part of that warmongery and war, and as Biden. Who will be more of a warmonger?
I don't know. I don't know for sure. Trump is less. He's non-status quo, but yet he is status quo in his own way. He's a billionaire that favors the rich and that sort of thing, and he throws in all of the, enemy stuff, whether it's the Mexicans, the racists, or the Muslims, as he has done, as the enemy, in his rally in Bemidji, Minnesota, he talked about how Trump wants to flood the state of Minnesota with Somalian refugees and that sort of thing. He is stirring the pot of racial hatred, which is a very, among people that, are armed. So it seems like he's stirring the pot to bring all America's wars back to the home front. I mean, that's what he seems to be doing.
Do you think that if elections are even if elections are fair and there is no fraud, and people are saying, here and there are some mistakes and some fraud and all that, but by and large, elections in America are fair. But the way conversation is going, there is a high level of anxiety, a high level of concern about the election and the foreign interference. Two communist countries, one Russia, well, no longer formally communist, but former communist country and still hardly a democracy, and China, which is declared communist country, they have picked horses in this particular race. And they are supporting, and not to count Saudi Arabia and Iran, and they also want to have influence. So what's going to happen to decide the election? So somebody asked Biden about that. And he said, and I quote, "I promise you, I'm absolutely convinced," and talking about the military, he said, "I promise you, I'm absolutely convinced we'll escort him out from the White House with great dispatch." So he's relying on military to hand him over the presidency if according to his and Democratic perspective, they win. Uh, Now, do you think that's a possible scenario?
Well, it is, yes, it is certainly a possible scenario. I don't think it'll be a simple scenario of, oh, okay, let's escort him out, problem solved. I think who knows what kind of chaos will, you know, you know, will erupt if that's what happens. Like I say, I'm just sitting here in a state of, what's going to happen? I don't know, but yes, having Trump escorting Trump, the declared loser out of office, is a possible scenario. I don't know if that's what'll happen.
Well, General Mark Milley, he's the highest military official. He told Congress that the military would not intervene to resolve any dispute over the election's outcome. And but Biden seems to be in confidence that is going to be one of these scenarios. Either way, if arms are involved, even if military steps in, don't you think there is a risk of military getting divided?
Oh, yes. I mean, like I say, going back to this larger issue that, we brought up earlier of Trump simply being a symptom of a long-standing problem. Yes. I mean, the military budget in this country, is virtually $1 trillion. It's half or more than half of the entire budget, and so there's an enormous, um, an enormous, militarism. The military industrial complex has a grip on this country that is so large that it's never ever talked about except at the margins. So who knows what can happen? So the military could, could go in multiple directions on this whole issue.
You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, which covers United States, Canada, and Mexico, as well as Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and also on our website, muslimnetwork.tv. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with Bob Kohler, and we'll be right back after these messages.
What was it like when you started this network out, when you started Sound Vision those many years ago?
After 9/11, one lady called me and she says, what is your channel which I can watch? And I say, I'm sorry, we don't have a channel. And you know what she said? She said, then how America will know about you?
SubhanAllah. Anything you want to say to the people who are watching? We had one sister who messaged that she grew up on Sound Vision. What do you say to the people who have been long supporters?
Thank you. Thank you. It is because of you we are able to do all of that. So the generation of Adam's world You need to take it over for the next generation. And that's my invitation to you. So keep telling everybody where to watch. They can watch it on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or easy thing, muslimnetwork.tv, or our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel. And with your help, inshallah, ladies, the one who called me, what channel should I watch Muslims on? Answer is here and now.
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Bob Kohler, who has been a longtime reporter based in Chicago. You say in your column, it's not just the worries about what's going to happen to democracy, but democracy have been eroding for a while in America. What do you mean? You want to explain a little bit?
Well, I would say, I wouldn't even put it quite that way, that democracy has been eroding. Democracy, this country, was born as a slave country. How can there be a democracy when part of the population are, slaves, and they're considered 3/5 of a human being? This country is, and then women had no right to vote. This country has been, part of our democracy has been a struggle to be a democracy. So there has been.
Don't you think that it has consistently become more perfect union?
No, I think it has become complexly, more and less perfect both at the same time. So yes, certain, peoples have gained rights that they did not initially have. People of color and women in terms of voting and other things too. But in that same process, there has been a huge grab of power. President Eisenhower called it the military-industrial complex. And of course, he waited till the end of his presidency to talk about it. He didn't talk about the military-industrial complex while he was president, only as he was leaving office. And I believe that's because the president does not have the power to stand up against the military-industrial complex. So I believe that's an enormous erosion of democracy, is for something like that, to have such a large control over government. Most people do not want us to go to war. Certainly, from the wars of my lifetime, from Vietnam to the current endless wars, have been enormously opposed by the general public. And if we were a democracy, we would not be doing, waging such wars. But we're not a democracy, except in a more superficial sense. So we do not have a democracy that goes deep enough to end the war.
So what context Eisenhower says? He was a military man. He was a very celebrated person.
Yes.
And he was part of that establishment, which he says is an establishment. So what was the context in which he said?
Well, I'm just trying to, I think the context was that, it was, post-World War II, America as the, one of the world's two superpowers. America was recently, a nuclear armed country, and then the Soviet Union, also became nuclear. And so I think that was the essential context. Was the nuclear arms race was in a relatively, beginning state still. During the president's, during the Eisenhower term, we did a lot of, governmental overthrow. We overthrew, via the CIA, democratically elected governments in Iran, Guatemala, and also the Congo. Patrice Lumumba, we helped, so we got rid of Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala, and the democratically elected president of Iran, and the Congo. We have played lots of games in terms of election interference for our advantage. So that, and that's during the Eisenhower presidency. And then at the end of his presidency, he finally had the, ability and perhaps the courage to walk away from that and quote, warn us about the military industrial complex. But anyway, so the context that Eisenhower spoke of was already a context in which war prevailed over, over anything else.
So when we say military industrial complex, military is known, military budget is known. What are the industries? You're talking about what percentage of the economy constitute a direct industrial component of the military industrial complex?
Well, all right. I would have to, dig into, a lot of research to kind of get a sense of how many, countries and industries contribute to the military industrial complex. Certainly, lots of these, large industries, whether it's, Boeing and many others, direct, weapons builders and all that, directly, contribute to the, to this, at one point there was, kind of a scandal about things like, $1,000 for a toilet seat and that kind of thing. A lot of industries, a lot of companies can jump into the military and, and make a lot, and grab money. I don't have a, I don't have an analysis ready to, to say who or how many, but I know that there's a lot of, there's a large part of the, of the economy, is dependent on that.
So, so if Biden is in support of status quo, and status quo is comfortable with military-industrial complex. So do you see more domestic stability and more external wars with him? Do you think that complex will support Obama over Trump?
Well, once again, these are, what is the scenario in which, Biden will, come to power, presuming that he does. My hope is that the scenario in which Biden comes to power is that he clearly was pushed into office, by a progressively oriented public that stands for things like Medicare for all and the Green New Deal and all so dealing and an anti-war base that it becomes clear to Biden that he has to address the issues and concerns of the public that put him into office. If that doesn't happen, he will just be at best, the next Obama, who, seems good in some ways and has a superficial, progressive agenda for, on social issues, perhaps, like, healthcare, maybe healthcare, maybe not, but will keep pushing war and, and will do nothing to, to demilitarize the country. I mean, that's most likely.
Tell me that, let's think of some solutions. How can we prevent our country becoming a war zone? I mean, it is already enough conflict. There is a huge amount of partisanship. Now, guns, although not many incidents, but guns have come out from both sides. And police is, which are supposed to enforce the law and order, it looks like they have taken a side in the protest for equality and anti-racism campaign, and maybe they are pushed on that direction somewhat. So to bring the bipartisanship to this scenario and increase the likelihood of people will consider election to be more legitimate, do you think if former presidents, President Obama and President Bush are recruited to, say, oversee the elections and election results, do you think that will bring more confidence in the eyes of people on both sides?
No, not particularly. I mean, once again, Bush and Obama won. It's a convergence of, of center left and center right. And, so all of the issues, certainly that I believe in, but I think that much of the public believes in, are ignored by any contingency that's represented by Bush Obama. And so, and if they bring Biden in, Biden is just, part of the same status quo, nothing changes. And that has to be addressed. In a way, the irony is that Trump being, this right-wing racist nationalist, white supremacist is doing a lot to shatter the status quo. And, there's, all of these neoconservative Bush supporters hate Trump. And, and there's, and there's a Republican revolt, on the edges against Trump, even though there's, most Republicans, are surrendering all principle in order to support Trump. But I think that only a united public, united in the need for for demilitarization, for ending poverty and racism in this country, and economic equality.
But Bob, what you're saying is not a point of unity. That seems like point of more partisanship, because that's the agenda of the liberal.
See, I disagree with that. I think that I don't think that what I'm talking about is liberal, certainly, because liberals support war. I think that there is a way to present this in a way that could unite a large segment of the public to believe in this. I believe that the public does want this. We have, I mean, that I understand that could, there would be a counter argument to that, but I believe that, that the majority of Americans support a world, a country and a world that is moving towards equality, towards, environmental sustainability, and beyond militarism. I don't think that's a liberal issue.
Okay, so is it a progressive issue?
Yes, it's a progressive issue.
So how are you going to unite the country when conservatives don't buy into that?
Well, as I say, I think that there is a large part, and for the most part, an untapped large part, from progressives to independents to young people, that need to unite. I mean, most people believe in something like climate change as a serious, serious danger. I think most people believe that nuclear weapons represent a serious, serious danger. It's not talked about because the mainstream media has helped keep that out of the public debate. If those issues were truly part of the public, consciousness and the public debate, most people would go, we got to do something about this. And that's where I stand, is pushing that.
Tell me, if this is what you teach is peace journalism at DePaul University, I thought nobody teaches peace.
Wait, say that again. You thought what?
So I'm changing the line of questioning as we have a couple of minutes left.
Yes.
You teach peace journalism at the DePaul University in the Chicago area.
Yes.
So what is a peace journalism?
Well, all right. Yes, peace journalism, is about as I defined it, and there is no set definition for peace journalism. It's sort of a process currently being invented. I didn't invent the term, but I came upon the term and I went, yes, that's it. I'm a peace journalist. It looks at the complex issue, not the simple issue. In journalism, the simple issue is if it bleeds, it leads. Chaos and disorder and crime, they're easy things to write about. Conflict is easy to write about. What is the context of a context? What is the larger issue, the larger truth? What is the larger truth in war? Well, both sides have a point of view. All sides have a point of view. And in peace journalism, you don't choose sides. You listen to everybody. and you look for the larger truth, and the larger truth is always about people connecting and getting along.
Okay, so you're asking journalists to be more objective, essentially. But tell me, what is happening to peace movement in this country? Is there something called peace movement any longer?
Yes, there is. There definitely is. And it's still on the margins. And as a journalist, I blame journalism for that. Journalism has not opened itself to the enormity of the desire for peace in this country. And that is my particular issue, is to open journalism to understanding and writing about peace. It pretends to do so, but only peace that's maintained by the military, which is not peace at all. You know, the ironic joke is peace is that moment, when everyone is reloading. I mean, it's that short period of time between wars. And we teach history by going from one war to the next. There has to be an entire consciousness shift. This is not a simple issue, obviously, but it's what I believe in, and it's what I am trying to devote myself to, is pushing for the consciousness shift.
Thank you so much for Bob Kohler, for your ideas, your thoughts, your hope, and you're continuously focusing and preparing by next generation by teaching them peace journalism. I hope your classes are overcrowded and more people to teach to. And thank you, Sherdil Khan and Dr. Abdul Wahid, for producing today's show. You're watching Galaxy 19 satellite for Muslim Network TV. Muslim Network is always not only on Galaxy 19 satellite, but Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku, and our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. Peace. Salam.